We're TTB, the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rainey King, and I will be covering today's webinar on TTB Export Certificates. I'm going to read a really quick disclaimer. This information is being presented to help the public understand and comply with the laws and regulations that the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau administers. It is not intended to establish any new or change any existing definitions, interpretations, standards, or procedures regarding those laws and regulations. In the case of any conflict between any statement in this presentation and a TTB statute or regulation, the terms of the regulatory or statutory text will prevail. In addition, this presentation may be made obsolete by changes in laws and regulations. Please consult the applicable laws and regulations for the most current requirements. A quick overview of what we'll be talking about today: the purpose of export certificates, how to obtain an export certificate, the different types of export certificates, the common export certificate errors, export certificate resources, and our contact information. This webinar is being provided to all industry members as a basic guide to obtaining export certificates. It is aimed at people who need a refresher on what the requirements are, and for those who are new to the process on obtaining an export certificate. As a result of receiving this webinar, it is expected that industry members will increase their understanding of the export certificate process and TTB's requirements for processing, which will reduce the number of delays. We assist industry members seeking to export their products by providing export certificates or documents that are often required by other countries in order for U.S. alcohol beverage products to be imported into a foreign market. Let's talk about how to obtain a TTB permit, registration, or brewer notice. To obtain an export certificate for your exported beverage alcohol products, you must have a TTB permit, brewer notice, or registration from TTB. In order to obtain a TTB permit, please review the website below. Using permits online is the fastest way to obtain a TTB permit. If you need assistance with permits online, please contact the number listed on the screen, or you may email us at permitsonline@ttb.gov. Let's talk about the types of export certificates. Any export certificate required by a foreign country and submitted to TTB for approval must be one of the types listed in the following slides, with all the information requested on the certificate. The type of certificate required should be expressed to you by your foreign importer based on what is needed to clear the shipment. Requirements may vary by country. TTB also provides some limited guidelines on foreign government import requirements at the website listed on the screen. Here you will find a drop-down menu for finding various countries and their requirements. The most common types of export certificates processed by the IAD are Certificate of Free Sale, Certificate of Origin and/or Age, Certificate of Health, Certificate of Sanitation, Certificate of Authenticity, Certificate of Bottling, Sanitary Statement or Certificate, Certificate of Manufacturing Process. The types of export certificate forms and methods are listed below. The very first one is the electronic export certificate. The next one is the letterhead export certificate. Then we have the consolidated wine export certificate for wine being exported to China. That's mainland China. Then we have the APAC model wine certificate, the VI1 form, TTB form 5110.42, and TTB form 5110.58. Certificate of Analysis and Typicity, typically used for shipments to Brazil. Let's talk about the requirements for the electronic export certificate. Export certificates that are not available under the electronic export certificate system are the Consolidated Chinese Wine Export Certificate, the APAC Model Wine Certificate, the VI1 form, and TTB forms 5110.42 and TTB form 5110.58, as well as the Certificate of Origin and Typicity, which is used for shipments to Brazil. These certificates must be submitted to Export Certificates at ttb.gov or our mailing address. You may be wondering how to access the electronic export certificate system. Let's talk about it. You would go to the MyTTB website at myttb.gov and go to the Export Certificates box and click on Sign in to MyTTB. So if you look here at the image on the right, you will see the Export Certificates box, and in it you would click on Sign in to MyTTB, which is the blue bar in the Export Certificate box right here. You would then create an account with login.gov or ID.me. For more information on how to set up an account, please visit the website on the screen. Once the account is created, you can sign in with Login ID or ID.me. You will put in your username or password here and click Sign In, depending on which one you chose to sign up with. Let's talk about how you create an electronic export certificate. Once you are logged in to MyTTB, you will automatically be on your dashboard. You will then click on Export Certificates, which is right here in the image on the right. You would then scroll down to the bottom and click on the button where it says Create Certificate. So your screen would look like this. And in order to create a certificate, you would scroll down to where it says Create Certificates here. You will then select the type of certificate you want for this export. Certificate of authenticity, freestyle, health, manufacturing process, sanitation, bottling, sanitary, origin, age, and origin and age. Next, you will select the TTB permit, registry, or brewer's notice number for the exporter. Once selected, the name of the company and their address should auto-populate from Permits Online, also known as funnel. So here's the drop-down box where you would select the type of certificate required to import the beverages where you're exporting to. Once you do that, you would select the TTB permit number affiliated with the exporting company, and all that information should auto-populate in these two boxes right here. If you do not see the address you are looking for, you will need to update your address in funnel. Once you have entered the exporter information, you will need to provide all the information for the foreign importer. So as shown on the image on the right, you would see Ship To. This would be all the information for the importer, the importing company's name, the country you're importing to, their address, the city, the state, province, or region is optional, and the zip and postal code is also optional. You would then provide a description of what is being shipped and then click Add Product. If you made a mistake, click Remove on the right-hand side under the Action tab. You can add up to 8 products for it to fit completely on one page. If you want to register a product with the importing country, just provide the description and click Add Product. So as you can see in the image on the right, you have the description, kind and type, the number of cases, the containers or cases, bottle can volume, and the volume unit. You would then click Add Product. If you're registering a product, you only have to enter the description here. This is an example of what it'll look like once you've added your beverages. As I stated before, you can add up to 8 beverages on one page. And as stated previously, if you made a mistake, you would just click Remove here. It would remove that item or that beverage, and then you would go back and add it again just like you started the first time. If additional language is required, type it in the additional language box and then click Preview Certificate. You will have the option to edit it if you need to make any changes. Some countries require additional information. This is where you would put that information here. If you're registering a product for the first time, you can also put for registration only in this box, and then you would click Preview Certificate here. You will then click the box under Product Certification. Then click Generate Certificate. If you need to edit any of the information, please click the Edit Information box. You will then be able to make changes before the certificate is generated. So here's what it looks like once you have finished adding your products and you've entered any additional information that the countries may require. It'll look just like the image on the right here. You'll see your permit number, the company name and address, the importer's information here, the amount of products being shipped, and the quantities. And then you would click Product Certification. You would click that box here, and then you would click Generate Certificate. If for any reason you need to edit, you would click the Edit Information button right here that is in blue. You will then see a screen with your certificate ID. You will also see a QR code that can be scanned to verify the authenticity of the certificate. The link can also be used. So in the area right here under Certificate of Free Sale is where your certificate ID would populate. The black box here is where you would see your QR code. And there is also a link that will be provided, which is, right here. And you can click on that as well. At the bottom of the screen, you have the option to download the certificate as a PDF or print the completed certificate. So here are the two options here, download and print. For those of you who like hard copies, you can print it. For those of you who like electronic copies, maybe you want to save it to a file, you can download it and save it under whatever name you will remember it by. You will also have the option to go back to the certificates, and I will talk about that later. So, speaking of which, locating or surrendering an electronic export certificate. To locate a certificate, you will please put in the last 4 digits of the certificate ID number in the search box. If you lost a PDF or would like to print it again, just click on the certificate ID number. So in this box, in the search box here, you will put in the last 4, you will click on the search button, it should populate that certificate. You will then click on the certificate and you will have the chance to download it or print it again. Or if you just wanted to locate it again, this is how you would do it. If you want to surrender the certificate, you would please enter the certificate ID and click on Surrender. In the pop-up box, click Yes to verify that you want to surrender this certificate. Once finished, it will show you the date it was surrendered. You will no longer be able to use, print, or download the certificate. So this is very important. When you surrender a certificate, you want to make sure that it is the one that you indeed want to remove and get rid of or cancel. So you always want to verify the last 4 of that certificate or the entire certificate number if you want to be detailed, but the last 4 definitely. And you want to make sure that that is indeed the certificate that you want to surrender. If it is, you will click yes, and it will totally be erased. If it's not, you will click cancel, and you will click the button to enter the correct certificate information from the one that you want to cancel. You can find a step-by-step user guide of our electronic export certificate system here on this web page. Listed on the screen, this guide covers all of the aspects of the system mentioned in this section of the presentation. Let's talk about the requirements for standard letterhead export certificates. The standard letterhead certificates are the most commonly requested certificates and accepted by many foreign countries. Unfortunately, the current template does not allow you to directly add letterhead images. Accordingly, you must save the completed template and add your letterhead separately. The type of export certificate you are requesting must be typed below the company letterhead. The name and full address, street, city, state, and zip code of the exporting company, as well as the TTB permit, registry, or brewer's notice number for the exporting company must be provided on the certificate. All of the information for the foreign importer must be provided in the Ship To section, to include the name of the country, importing company's name, and complete address. In the description section, you will list the name of the product and type, the number of cases, bottles per case, and bottle can volume. This information must be provided in accordance with the importing country's requirements. Some countries may require an export certificate in order to register the product prior to its first importation. In this case, please put for registration purposes only in the additional comment section on the letterhead certificate. If you have more than 5 products, you will need to complete more than one set of certificates, as 5 is the most that you can put on a letterhead certificate. You must ensure that you provide the type name and title of the authorized signatory for the company beneath the signature line and the date. The letterhead certificate must contain an original signature by an authorized signatory, no stamp. The information you enter on the company letterhead is automatically reproduced on the TTB letterhead. This only happens if you use our template from our website. If you're using a template created by someone in-house, it may not be the same and it may not happen that way. So this definitely happens if you're using the template from our website. I just wanted to point that out. If the importing country requires 2 copies of the certificate, i.e. one on company letterhead and one on TTB letterhead, please ensure you submit both pages of each certificate together in a PDF format to exportcertificates@ttb.gov for processing. Please do not split the letterheads when you submit them, i.e. do not submit all company letterheads in one attachment and all TTB letterheads in another. They should be submitted as a set. So this is what an example of a letterhead certificate looks like. So at the very top, at the very top, you have the company letterhead here that you can either type or you can apply your image in a separate step. And then you would put the type of certificate you are requesting, like certificate of origin, free sale, help. And then you would put in the exporting company's information here, the company name, their complete address, and the TTB permit registry or brewer's notice number associated with that company. Then you would put the ship to information of the importer, the country, the company, and their complete address. And this box here is for additional language. So if you're registering a product for the first time, that is where you would put for registration only. If you're not, then you would put any additional language required by the importer. Here you would put the information about the products being exported, the description, kind, and type, number of cases, bottles, cases, and then bottle can volume. This is the most common error that we receive on export certificates in terms of the letterhead template. People forget to put the name and title of the person signing the form. It is very important that you type that information in this block, so that way we can verify the person signing has signing authority on behalf of that company. You would also put the date here. And as I stated previously, the information will auto-populate to the TTB letterhead, so there's no need for you to fill in that information. Because once you do it on the company letterhead, it's automatically reproduced on the TTB letterhead. Let's talk about the requirements for the Consolidated Chinese Wine Certificate. General instructions for the Consolidated Wine Export Certificate. China requires that U.S. industry members use the one-page Consolidation Wine Export Certificate when exporting wine there. The certificate incorporates all 3 certificates: Certificate of Origin, Certificate of Health, Sanitation, and Certificate of Authenticity and Free Sale. If you need a certificate of bottling, it must be applied for separately using the Export Certificate letterhead template. The Consolidated Chinese Wine Export Certificate should not be used when exporting to Hong Kong or Taiwan. For exports going to Hong Kong or Taiwan, the Export Certificate template, i.e. letterhead certificates, or the APAC model wine certificate should be used. Please fill out the Consolidated Certificate with all the required information, print it out, sign, and submit it to exportcertificates@ttb.gov as PDF files. TTB will stamp approved certificates with the date a signature, and a TTB seal and return them to the submitter. Please note that approved certificates cannot be emailed back to the submitter, as China requires these documents to contain an original TTB signature and TTB seal. Only one copy of the consolidated Chinese wine certificate needs to be submitted. In order to obtain an approved request, the submitter must A, be permitted by TTB as a producer or wholesaler, and B, complete all required information in a complete, accurate, and truthful manner, and C, have the certificate signed by a person with signing authority on the company's TTB permit. Specific instructions for filling out the certificate. For wineries which directly export wine to China, please indicate same in all boxes in the exporter wholesaler section. For exporters, wholesalers which export wine to China, please provide all the information requested in both the winery, bottler, producer section and the exporter wholesaler section. In the China importer consignee section, please provide all the information requested for the Chinese importer consignee who will receive the wine. In the description of the wine section, there are 5 mandatory items: name, brand, origin, net volume, and alcohol content, and 3 items for use where applicable: varietal or type, vintage, and appellation. In the quantity section, please use the format bottles, case, or number of cases. In the bottling date section, date information is required, but lot code information is optional. In the signature section, please make sure the person signing the document has signing authority on the company's TTB permit. Please ensure you type the name of the person who signed the certificate and provide their title in the section beneath the signature section. This is what the consolidated Chinese wine certificate looks like. As you can see on the left-hand side, you will have the U.S. winery, bottler, producer information. So you will put the company's name, the premises address, and that is very important. You cannot use mailed addresses or mailing addresses as the address. It must be the premises address. You would put in the TTB permit number, and then you would come to the right, and you would put in the U.S. exporter or wholesaler information, their company name, the premises address, and the TTB permit number. You would then enter the Chinese importer's information here, the company name, and then you would enter their address here. You would then enter in all the description information for the wine that you are exporting. The description of the wine, the quantity goes here, and the bottling date must be provided here. The only thing that is optional, again, is the lot code. Here you would sign the form and date it, and you would provide the type name of the person who signed the form and their title, the name and the title. Let's talk about the requirements for the APEC Model Wine Certificate. U.S. wine exported to Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC economies, may be accompanied by an APEC Model Wine Certificate, except for wine that is shipped to China, mainland China, that is. APEC is comprised of 21 economies. The countries are listed on the slide. The purpose of this certificate is to help streamline wine export to the APEC region in a more efficient manner by consolidating existing certificate requirements into a single certificate usable across the region. The APEC Model Wine Certificate is a multi-purpose certificate used for certificates of authenticity, free sale, certificates of health and sanitation, and certificates of origin. The use and scope of the APEC Model Wine Export Certificate is at the discretion of the importing APEC economy, and it is highly suggested that exporters consult with their importer to ensure they meet all requirements and that they have adopted the certificate in lieu of pre-existing conditions and requirements. The APEC Model Wine Certificate does not affect any agreements in APEC economies that were agreed to previously via free trade agreements, economic partnership agreements, or other types of agreements. Exporters should refer to instructions for completing the APEC Model Wine Certificate. Please note that Thailand requires specific language to be added to its certificate. You can find out more information by going to the website listed on the slide. This is what an APEC Model Wine Certificate looks like. It is very similar to the consolidated Chinese wine certificate. The differences are the exporter information goes on the left and the importer's information will go on the right. So the description of wine and the quantities still go in the middle. And here you would sign the form, and only if you're an authorized signatory, and you would date it, and here you provide the type name of the person who signs the form and has authorized signatory status. Let's talk about required certificates for wine exports to the EU. Common Regulation EC number 555/2008 of 27 June 2008 implemented Council Regulation EC number 479/2008 on import requirements for wine to the EU, along with exceptions. For more information, please visit the link on the slide. When wine is exported to the European Union by the winery that produced it, then wineries may self-certify using the Simplified Export Certificate. The Simplified Export Certificate does not have to be submitted to TTB. Please consult TTB Industry Circular 2007-2, and the link is provided on the slide for more information on this type of certificate. This is what the Simplified Export Certificate looks like. Again, this certificate is not submitted to TTB. It is self-certifying, so it does not need to be submitted to TTB. The VI-1 form is only required when the exporter is not the producing winery. This form is a 5-part form and should be submitted with all 5 parts. Prior to exportation, the U.S. exporter is required to have each shipment of the product analyzed by a TTB certified laboratory. A list of TTB certified laboratories can be found on this link listed on the slide. The laboratory will need to include the results of the analysis on the bottom analysis portion of the certificate. The exporter or laboratory should then forward the certificate for TTB to process the form. This is what a VI-1 form looks like. Again, it is a 5-part form, and all 5 parts must be submitted to TTB. On the form, you would submit the exporter's information, so you would include the company name, the address, and the TTB permit number associated with that exporter. You would then enter the consignee's information, the means of transport, the place of unloading, the description of the product, the quantities here. This information would be completed by your lab, and this information would be completed by TTB. Let's talk about the requirements for TTB Form 5110.42, the Certificate of Authenticity Bourbon Whiskey. The distillery registration number must be listed on the form. It can be listed in Item 1, Item 5, or in the notes section. All other information for this form is self-explanatory. So this is what the 5110.42 looks like. You would enter in the consignor's full name and address, the consignee's full name and address. Again, you can list the TTB distillery number in 1, 5, or the note section. So this is 1, this is 5, and this is the note section. So it can be entered in either of those. And this is just a close-up of what that looks like. This section is where TTB would endorse the form, so don't fill out anything below Item 11 or Block 11. Let's talk about TTB Form 5110.58. 27 CFR 28.104, period. The entry of distilled spirits at ports in certain foreign countries is permitted only upon the filing by the importer of an official certificate showing the origin and age of such spirits. An appropriate TTB officer may, on request of the applicant, furnish a certificate showing the origin and age of the spirits described on TTB Form 5100.11 or 5110.30. Such officer may require supporting documentation to be provided by the applicant. Certificates of origin and age shall be furnished on Form 2177. Form 2177 may also be used for distilled spirits to be removed from a foreign trade zone, in which case the number and location of the foreign trade zone shall be shown on the form in lieu of the name of the foreign country. Please complete the form in its entirety. So this is what TTB Form 5110.58 looks like. You would enter the producer's information, the distillery registration number, the premises address, the location where spirits are to be exported. So this will either be the name of the country or it will be the free trade zone information, the date consigned for export. You would then enter the description of the spirits here, and this box is where TTB would endorse the form and date it. Let's talk about requirements for the Brazilian Certificates of Origin, Analysis, and Typicity. Brazil currently has 3 different types of certificates: Certificate of Origin, Certificate of Analysis, and Certificate of Typicity. The forms provided by Brazil must be used for the Certificates of Origin and Typicity. Letterhead certificates are not accepted by Brazil. The templates for the Certificates of Origin and Typicity can be found here on the website listed on the slide. Certificate of Analysis. Prior to exportation, Brazil requires each shipment of the product to be analyzed by a TTB certified laboratory. A list of TTB certified laboratories can be found on the link on the screen. The Certificate of Origins must have the following information when submitted to TTB. For the exporter and the producer items of the document, you must provide the name of the company, company's complete address, and TTB registry and permit number. In order to receive an endorsement approval from TTB, the Certificate of Origin must also have the below statement above our endorsement, in addition to other required language stated on the template on the link above. The Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau of the U.S. Department of the Treasury confirms that the producer exporter identified on the certificate holds a permit, registration, brewer's notice issued by TTB as identified by the permit, registry, brewer's notice number listed on the certificate, and that the information about the exported product is based on representations made by the producer exporter. On the left-hand side, you see an example of what the Certificate of Origin looks like for Brazil. On the right-hand side is a Certificate of Typicity. On both forms, you will find the required statement already provided on the form if you obtained it from our website. This is very important that this be provided, and is also one of the main reasons that the form will get rejected if submitted without it. So please make sure you have the statement here on the Certificate of Origin. It should be right above our endorsement area. And in block 4.5, it is in that block where we endorse it. And a lot of people feel like it may not be enough room to endorse it and remove the statement. But please leave the statement as it is and submit the form. This is what the Certificate of Origin looks like up close. You would enter in the exporter's information, their name, address, and company. In the very first block here, the producer's information goes here, and importing information goes here, as well as product information with the description type and quantity type here. This is where you would enter the TTB certified laboratory information, their name and address, and then you would make sure that this statement is here on the form above our endorsement area. And this is where we endorse the form on the Certificate of Origin for Brazil. The Certificate of Typicity. This certificate is requested by Brazil for products that do not meet Brazil's standards of identity for alcohol beverages, such as wines above 14% alcohol by volume. One of the biggest errors that is made on this form is an incorrect TTB permit, registry, or distillery number. The statement below must be provided in section 4.5. This is what the Certificate of Typicity looks like up close. You would put the name of the producer here, their address, the TTB permit, registry, or brewer's notice number there, the product information, the typical characteristics here. Then this information is where TTB would endorse your form in block 4. Please make sure you leave the statement in block 4.5 For faster turnaround, we highly recommend the certificates for Brazil be emailed to exportcertificates@ttb.gov because our original signature is the only signature accepted by Brazil. Let's talk about signing authority requirements for export certificates. All export certificates must be signed by a person with power of attorney or other proper notification of signature authority on file with TTB when required. The name on the certificate must match what was given to us on your TTB permit, brewer's notice, registration, or POA, so no abbreviations or nicknames can be used. Recently, we have found that a lot of companies have had a high turnover and need to update their authorized signatories. Please also note that a MyTTB POA for the export certificate module is only sufficient to sign for export certificates generated in MyTTB. Please submit the name of only one authorized signatory on a certificate. If you are new to the company or aren't sure as to whether you are an authorized signatory, please contact us via email at exportcertificates@ttb.gov. If you have a funnel account, you can update the authorized signatories online and submit a POA. If you don't have a funnel account but would like to get one, please follow the directions provided on this link on the slide. You may also use either of the following forms to make updates to your authorized signatories: TTB Form 5000.8, Power of Attorney, or TTB Form 5100.1, Signing Authority for Corporate Officials. You would then mail either of those forms to the National Revenue Center, also known as the NRC. If you have any questions about obtaining signing authority, please contact the NRC at the number listed on the slide. Let's talk about how to submit export certificates. TTB recommends submitting export certificates via email to exportcertificates@ttb.gov. Submitting export certificates by mail is also permitted, but will result in longer processing times. Export certificates@ttb.gov is the required email for export certificate submissions and is the only email export certificates should be submitted to unless otherwise directed. You will receive a faster response time if there are no issues or errors with your submission. Please ensure that you have reviewed your certificates for accuracy prior to submitting to IAD. When you submit your export certificates, you must ensure that you include any special instructions, export certificates, return address, or a prepaid shipping label from USPS, UPS, or FedEx if you want to be able to track and expedite your documents. At this time, it is preferred that you email a prepaid shipping label with your certificate because at this time we cannot return via regular mail. All electronic documents must be submitted in an Adobe PDF format. No other formats will be accepted because they alter the size of the export certificates when printed, which causes rejection and delays. You may also mail in the export certificates. TTB encourages requesters to submit export certificates electronically to TTB so that exporters may get their products to foreign marketplaces as soon as possible. When you mail in your documents, please ensure you submit a business card or point of contact information with your name, email, and phone number with your certificates in case there are any errors or questions in regards to your submission. If you are submitting your export certificates using USPS, please use the following address listed on the slide. If you are submitting your export certificates request to a commercial carrier like FedEx or UPS, please use the following address shown on the slide. So how do you make changes or updates to your export certificate? Any modifications or corrections that need to be changed must be done by the industry member. IAD will not annotate changes on behalf of industry members. If you need to modify or correct export certificates that have been submitted, you should do so immediately and indicate that the submission is a revision in the subject line. If the certificates have already been processed and returned, you will have to submit a new submission with the corrections and a new prepaid shipping label. Let's talk about timeframes and status updates. We aim to have all export certificates processed within 15 calendar days. Unexpected events may cause delays in normal processing. Please be mindful of these timeframes when submitting your export certificates. Unless it is an urgent request, please email us to inquire about the status of applications only if we have exceeded the maximum processing time described, and after you have already checked the status of your prepaid label, if provided. The best way to receive an update on the status of your submission is to send an email to exportcertificates@ttb.gov. At this time, export certificates are mailed back to industry members unless you use the electronic export certificate process. Please plan ahead. We recommend that you plan ahead and submit documents in a timely manner, especially around the holidays and end of the year. Let's talk about apostilles. This is a document issued by the federal government for recognition by countries of the 1961 Hague Convention. Apostilles for documents that are signed by TTB, such as export certificates, are done through the State Department. The inquirer will need to obtain an export certificate from TTB first, and then submit it to the State Department once they receive it back. Details on this process are available at the website shown on the screen. So what are some common export certificate errors? Not providing the type, name, and title of the authorized signatory below their signature is one of the biggest. The only certificates that do not require the signatory's type, name, and title are the VI-1 form and TTB forms 5110.58 and 5110.42. The person signing the export certificate isn't an authorized signatory on file with TTB or does not have a TTB-approved POA for the company. We cannot process an export certificate if it is not signed by someone with signing authority or power of attorney. This is one of the most common reasons for delayed TTB approval. The export certificate does not comply with the format on our template. Please use the template provided on our website and ensure you provide all the requested information. TTB requires that the physical address, street, city, state, and zip code provided on the export certificate match your address on file with your TTB permit. When incorrect TTB permit, registry, or brewer's notice numbers are submitted, it slows down processing time because we aren't able to see if the company is compliant with the requirements or if the certificates were signed by an authorized signatory. Please provide the TTB permit, registry, or brewer's notice numbers listed on the TTB permit for the company on the certificate. Not providing a return mailing address or prepaid shipping label. Please ensure that you provide a prepaid shipping label with your submission if you want to be able to track your documents and receive an expected delivery date. If you provide a return mailing address for return via USPS regular mail, please understand that there is no way to provide an expected delivery date or to track the document. Let's talk about the export certificate resources or export resources in general. So, in order to locate TTB forms, you can go to ttb.gov for forms and form resources. Click on Returns and Reports, or you can search TTB forms here on this link here. Some foreign governments require lab analysis as a condition of entry. While TTB's laboratories do not analyze exported products, TTB offers a chemist certification program for the export of beverage alcohol to foreign markets. For more information, you can visit the link shown on the screen. The TTB newsletter is our weekly electronic news source. Each edition contains the TTB top news of the week and other helpful information about TTB and the federal alcohol and tobacco laws and regulations we enforce. It is a great way to keep up to date with the latest from TTB. Other export resources are the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Foreign Agricultural Service, U.S. Department of Commerce, International Trade Administration, export.gov, and U.S. Department of State. If you have any export certificate questions, please see our frequently asked questions on the website shown on the screen. If you have any questions, concerns with the information provided in this webinar, please email your inquiry to exportcertificates@ttb.gov. Here is the contact information for the National Revenue Center, You can contact them via phone or via any of the resources available on the website shown. You can contact the Department of International Affairs Division via phone at the number shown on the screen or online at the link provided. And you can contact me via phone at the number shown on the screen, but the best way to reach me is via email at exportcertificates@ttb.gov, especially if you're on the West Coast, because we do have the time zone difference. Please take a few minutes to provide feedback on this webinar by taking the survey shown on the screen via QR code or the link provided on the screen. I appreciate all of you for attending this webinar. I hope that it was able to provide you with useful information on the Export Certificate Program. If you should have any questions that we did not get to address today, please feel free to email me at exportcertificates@ttb.gov. Again, my name is Rainey King. Thank you for attending this webinar. Happy holidays to you all.
Visit TTB's official YouTube channel at USTTB.gov for more TTB-related content. And remember to click subscribe so you'll always know when we upload new videos.